Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cohen back here again today with another video. Today's video is going to be recapping the NBA games, but I am going to put a focus on the Oklahoma City Thunder, my favorite team. And I want to talk about us because we figured out how to tank, finally. It took us long enough to figure out how tanking works, but eventually we have figured it out. We're losing a lot, and this is now our fifth game in a row that we've lost. Let me recap the last 5 games for you real quick from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Well, prior to this 5 game stretch, we won by 10 points against the Toronto Raptors. Since then, a 37-point loss to the Suns, a 48-point loss to the Portland Trailblazers, a 24-point loss to the Detroit Pistons, an 11-point loss to the Hornets, and tonight a 27-point loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And while in that stretch you have a good team like the Suns, you have solid teams like the Blazers and Hornets, you also have losses by upwards of 20 points to the Pistons and the Cavaliers in there. So, needless to say that the Thunder have figured out how to tank. We know how to do it now. After sitting out SGA, Dort, and Bazley for a good amount of time, Al Horford is not playing anymore this season. Darius Miller, we just cut him, and he's been a productive player for us. We're figuring out how to tank. We're letting the young guys go ahead and develop. It kind of looks like, have you ever seen when a varsity basketball team will watch the JV team play? They'll go to their games and just cheer them on from the bench. That's what it kind of looks like with SGA, Dort, Bazley, and Horford and Muscala cheering on these young guys from the bench. And while tanking is happening, very clearly we are plunging towards the bottom of the standings, which ultimately is kind of the goal for this season. The goal is to be bad this season and add a stud in the draft alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Darius Bazley, Pokusevski, Maledon, guys like that, to ultimately return to contention. It's fun. It's fun to watch a team tank. It honestly is. And I've still watched pretty much every single second of these games, maybe a couple seconds where I was looking away, looking down at my phone or tweeting something. But for the most part, I'm watching every single second of all of these games because I still love watching the Thunder play. And even though we are tanking, some of these guys that are losing these games for us, which shout out to them, are going to be on the team long term. They are long-term pieces for the future. You look at guys like especially Theo Maledon and Aleksej Pokusevski are two guys that have clearly shown themselves to be very productive players when they are given those opportunities. I'll talk about Theo Maledon first. Theo is really good, and he's only 19 years old. He's a good floor general, solid rebounder, a really good shot blocker for his size. That's something that doesn't show a lot, but he has these crazy athletic blocks. He blocked Cody Zeller at the rim in the game against the Hornets just the other day. Which was an incredible block. He makes these like sneakily athletic plays. He has a really quick first step. He has really good burst to the basket, and he's shown a ton of potential. He reminds me a lot of Chris Paul in a lot of ways. Just some of the shots and plays he makes, they kind of just remind me of Chris Paul. I'm not saying he's going to be Chris Paul or anything, but I'm saying that Theo Maledon has that Chris Paul kind of feel to his game where it's high IQ. He makes the right play pretty much all of the time. There are still some rookie mistakes. He has some silly turnovers. He gets himself into trouble sometimes, passing the ball when he's in the air and not having a spot to go with it, leading to a turnover. Just stuff like that. His finishing isn't quite there yet, but like I said, he's 19 years old, and so he has a ton of time to develop this stuff. And the fact that he's shown this much promise at 19 years old, being the 34th overall pick, is a huge win for the Thunder. I'm super excited to see him continue to develop, and I think he's probably going to be our backup point guard long term, assuming we end up getting a good or like a stud point guard in the draft. Maybe if we don't get a guard, Theo Maledon quickly becomes the starting point guard for the future for us with SGA at the 2 and whoever we get at like the 3, 4, 5, whatever that prospect ends up being. Next, I'll talk about Pokusevski. Poku has been a very polarizing figure all season. Prior to going to the G League bubble, Poku was bad. He was bad. He did show a lot of flashes of stuff that I've talked about his game. I think I've talked about on this channel a couple times. I honestly want to make a whole video talking about Pokusevski. Let me know if you want to see a video about that. Just talk about his potential, show some highlights of his game, and why I think he has insane potential. Really no clear ceiling at all. And even though he was playing pretty poorly, he has a lot of stuff that makes you go, wow, this guy's going to be really good. And before the G League bubble, he showed a lot of that. Good rebounding, solid defense, especially for his size. He has a really good frame to be a good defender, but he's super weak when you compare him to other NBA defenders. He doesn't have quite the muscle mass to keep up with some of those guys. He doesn't quite have the foot speed. However, he has shown a lot of potential to get in lanes, obstruct shots due to his lankiness, his ability to slide correctly in front of people. He's shown a lot of shot blocking tendencies. He had this great chase down block tonight on Colin Sexton. That was really impressive from him. Chasing down a really quick guard to get the block ultimately and save the score. He's shown a lot of playmaking chops. He sometimes every now and again will do a silly behind the back pass or something like that. Something that you're like, what the hell is he doing? And that's just his insane confidence. That's another thing he has. That is something you do need to have if you want to be a star in this league. You have to be super confident. You have to think that you are going to make the right play. You're going to make the basket every single time. That's why there are so many players in this league that are like, I'm really good, I'm the best. So many confident guys, because that's what you have to be to get to this stage in your basketball career. Additionally, actually, did I mention this already? Solid rebounding. He has solid rebounding for his frame. He is better boxing out than I thought he would be at this point. He just has a lot of good fundamentals, and he has a solid shot. That didn't show before the G League bubble. Coming out of the bubble, though, he's become kind of a sniper a lot of times. Pokusevski is shooting around 36% from three since coming back from the bubble, which is way better than what he was shooting before, which was like 12 or something like that. His shot just looks a lot more fluid. He's getting more into the rhythm of the game. A lot of times I felt like he was forcing shots in situations where he really didn't need to take those. He wasn't letting the game come to him as much. And now that Poku has kind of settled in and has let people give the ball to him, and he takes some of these like rhythm dribble shots sometimes too, not only just catch and shoot, it feels like his game is going a lot better. Additionally, he's expanded his mid-range game. Probably his biggest problem right now is his finishing. He's just really lanky, and it doesn't feel like he quite knows how to use his body correctly yet. It doesn't feel like he knows how to quite use his size, and without that muscle mass, it's tough for him sometimes to bully guys down low, and so he doesn't have much of a post-up game, not much of a finishing game. It's mainly just pull-up shots from the mid-range or three-point shots. So those are his main forms of offense at this point. When he develops that finishing, and if that shooting stays consistent, Poku's a major threat, especially if that playmaking. I don't even think I talked about his ball handling. The fact that Poku's able to run up the floor with the ball in his hands and make the right play a lot of the time. Even though he does make some mistakes, sometimes he'll underestimate his passes. He'll throw them a little too high, a little too low, and eventually they ended up getting stolen because someone sees it in the passing lane. He kind of telegraphs passes sometimes. As he feels out more of the game, he's going to get way better at that. And so even though we're tanking, those two guys are specifically making it fun. We can talk about other guys like a Moses Brown, who has some crazy athletic plays, great rebounder, a lot of size. He's going to be really fun. We have him locked up long term. Kenrich Williams, another guy who's a really solid, consistent role player, who is going to be a staple in this rotation, I think, for a while. Svi Mykhailiuk, I'm finally saying that right. I've been saying Mykhailiuk for a while. I'm now realizing it's Mykhailiuk. Svi Mykhailiuk has been really good for us. I think the Hamidou Diallo trade was a win-win for both sides. Hami's been really good for the Pistons, and Svi has really impressed me in his time. He's shown a lot better slashing than I previously remembered from watching him play. He's shooting lights out from three. That's what we all knew he could do. He has, like I said, some sneaky athletic plays, solid rebounding. He kind of just does a little bit of everything. He's better on the defensive end than I previously remembered, and it's impressive from him. So even though we are getting blown out, it's not the worst thing, because not only is it getting us a draft pick, but also Shai and Dort especially don't need much more development. They showed all their potential this season. Dort will probably come back at some point because he's just concussed. Shai will probably come back as well. Actually, that's kind of up in the air. Shai is dealing with plantar fasciitis, if you did not know, and ultimately it's kind of up in the air whether he will return this season. I hope he does by April 26th, because I might be going to a game against Philly in there. I'll vlog that if you guys want to see that, if I do end up going to that game. But I'm hoping he's back at that game because I really want to see him play in real life. I've seen him once before, but I'd love to see him now as he has continued to get better. But ultimately, even if they don't play very much the rest of the season, that's fine. I made a video early in the season talking about how it was okay if the Thunder didn't know how to tank, because eventually they were going to figure it out. Eventually we were going to start losing games. They were going to come along, and along the way, until we figure out how to lose games, guys were going to keep developing. And that's what happened. Dort got better. SGA got better. Baisley has been out for a long time, so he hasn't quite taken that leap that the other two have, but I do think he still has it in him. And at the same time, while they have gotten to take their leaps, they are now out of the equation, and Poku, Teo, Kenrich, Svi, all these guys are learning how to take over. They're learning how to play their roles. I could also talk about a Ty Jerome, who had a career-high 23 points tonight for the team high as well. He's been fantastic for us. I'm super happy to get him from the Chris Paul trade. The guys are just kind of showing out. And so it's cool to see. Isaiah Roby has also missed some time as of recently, and hopefully he comes back soon, because he's another guy that I would like to see a little bit more of, let him keep developing. But ultimately, with these guys going out, another guy we just picked up today, I'm forgetting his name. We picked up a guy from the Spanish league. We got rid of Darius Miller. We waived him. Made sense. He is a guy that a lot of contenders would like to see, and I'm sure he doesn't want to play for a rebuilding team at this point in his career. And so we sent him off to the waiver wire. Some team will pick him up. He's not going to be on there for long. Bringing in another guy. He's 26 years old, but we could probably use this last portion of the season to test him out, see what he's made of, and we'll see if it sticks. Additionally, doing 10-day contract type stuff where we have Jerome Robinson and Jalen Horde on limited time deals to kind of test out and see what they're made of. I'm really enjoying this Thunder experience. It's cool to see all these guys get the opportunities to prove themselves, and I'm excited to see how it keeps going, and hopefully we continue to lose most of these games and we manage to climb to the top of that lottery odd table, and eventually we end up with the number 1 overall pick, adding Cade Cunningham, or if we don't get the number 1 overall pick, adding like a Suggs, a Mobley, a Jalen Green, or a Jonathan Kuminga to this team. With tonight's loss to the Cavaliers, the Thunder are only 1 game back of a top 5 pick, so I'm super excited about that. As long as we get in the top 5, I'm happy with it. I would love to get the Rockets pick too, so maybe we can keep being bad enough to where we probably won't pass the Rockets. The Rockets are really bad, but hopefully we can reach them or get close to them, so that way we can hopefully get 2 top 5 picks is basically what I'm going for. So I just want to let you guys know the Thunder are fully tanking. The tank is underway. Don't worry about it. Don't bet on the Thunder. If you are making a parlay or something, do not bet on the Thunder, because we're going to lose by around 20, 25-ish, probably almost every single night for the rest of the season. There will be some nights where we do win games. That's not how it works. You don't always go 0-72. The worst team doesn't always lose. But I would say at this point, we are probably playing like the worst team in the NBA, and that's okay. Guys are developing. We're learning. We're figuring it out. So, also want to give out a shout to Coach Mark Daigneault, who's done a fantastic job this season. I'm excited for him to be the coach for the future. Hopefully, when we return to contention, I would love for Daigneault to keep being our coach. That took longer than I thought it was going to. I talked a lot about it. I do kind of also want to talk more about some of the other games that did go on. I want to give a shout to the Bulls, who are on a winning streak. I believe this is now their 3rd game in a row that they've won. The first 3 games they've won in the Vucevic era, and it feels like they're figuring it out. Zach LaVine had a double-double tonight with assists. His playmaking was incredible tonight, and I think he needs to show more of that side of his game with Nikola Vucevic as a scoring option. LaVine doesn't need to score as much. He needs to focus on getting the ball a little bit more to Vucevic, letting him get a little more in rhythm, and I think that'll go a long way to this team's success. Lauri Markkanen had a good game tonight. Kobe White had a good game tonight. This was just an all-around good performance from the Bulls, and they need to keep having these if they do want to make the playoffs, which I think they ultimately will. Troy Brown Jr., a guy I really, really like. I loved him in Washington, and I'm happy that he's now getting opportunities in Chicago. He's been one of their staples on their bench. Really good defensive presence. He can handle the ball. He can kind of do a little bit of everything, and I'm excited that he's getting opportunities. Finally, after all season, I was waiting for the Wizards to play this guy, and they just wouldn't play him, so happy he's getting these opportunities now. Clippers beating the Suns. The Suns, team I just dropped a video on earlier today, of course, talking about how good they are, end up losing by 10 to the Clippers. It's a tough back-to-back. Playing the Jazz and the Clippers back-to-back is probably one of the tougher back-to-back draws you can get in the NBA this season. They did a good job. They put up a good fight. The Clippers were just better tonight, and the Clippers showed how good they are tonight. This is a matchup that I would love to see in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see it, and if it does, I would love to see 7 games of this. Same thing goes for the Suns-Jazz game yesterday, and I could also talk about Jazz Trailblazers, another series that I would love to see, but I'll get to that in a second. Bucks-Mavericks. This one, the Mavericks just keep rolling. This looked like the Mavericks of the Clippers series from last year, where they showed out and ultimately could have maybe taken that series from the Clippers if Kristaps Porzingis didn't get hurt. We'll never know on that front of things, but even so, the Mavericks pushing them to 6 games was a big accomplishment for a Clippers team that a lot of people thought would probably win in 5 over the Mavericks, kind of pushed them around a little bit. Since it was Luka Doncic's first playoff series, it was Kristaps Porzingis' first return with, or his first season with, I don't know why I could find that word, first season with Luka Doncic in this kind of role. So they ended up pushing them around a little bit towards the end of the series, but it was a fight all the way through. And tonight, beating the Milwaukee Bucks, given they didn't have Giannis Antetokounmpo, but the Mavericks blew them out, which is what you have to do against the Bucks without Giannis. It's what you really want to see. The Warriors, I mentioned it last night, didn't play as well as I thought they should have against this Bucks team, given the Warriors aren't very good. But when they don't have Giannis, you should be able to beat them, and that's what the Mavericks did tonight. The Bucks are kind of skidding a little bit without Giannis. They need him back. Obviously, he's their best player. He'll be back at some point soon. I'm hoping that this knee issue isn't something that keeps him out for very long. It would be really disappointing if it does, but I don't think so. Pistons Kings, I'm not going to talk about this one. Pistons winning by 12 points against the Kings. Good result for me. This is what I like to see from a Thunder perspective, hoping the Pistons keep winning and potentially pass us in the lottery. We'll see about that. The Pistons are very far down there. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Lakers Heat, I guess. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope went nuts. Oladipo dunked on someone. It was cool. Good for the Heat. Only winning by 6 points, though, against this Lakers team isn't exactly what you want to do. But getting a win is getting a win ultimately, and the Heat did that tonight in this finals rematch, I guess if you could call it, without LeBron or Anthony Davis. Shout out Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for balling out. A good game from Jimmy Butler. Typically, this was probably one of Oladipo's better games in a Miami Heat jersey. He did end up getting hurt, but it sounds like he's okay, thankfully. Really annoying that he got hurt for himself, I'm sure, because he felt like he was finally getting into rhythm, getting hurt in his best game so far as a member of the Miami Heat. Hopefully he's okay and that he's not facing anything serious. Finally, Trailblazers Jazz. This would be a fun series, I think. I don't think would be as much of a blowout as tonight showed. Jazz winning by 19 points against the Portland Trailblazers. The Trailblazers are still kind of easing Yusuf Nurkic back into his role. They're keeping him on like a 20-minute per game limit, and I think that's really hurting them right now, especially against a team like the Jazz. You really need a big presence down low to deal with Gobert and to try and get Gobert shifted a little bit out of the paint to give a guy like Damian Lillard opportunities to drive, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, guys like that. That still feels so weird to say, talking about Norman Powell as a member of the Portland Trailblazers. But, yeah, they just need Nurkic to be back to what he was. This Blazers team, I'm not sure where they are right now. They just can't stop anyone defensively. The Jazz, this was a great bounce back from them from the Suns game, and the Jazz continue to roll. It's going to be really fun to see who takes that one seed, whether it's the Jazz or the Suns, or maybe a third team comes into the fray. Maybe like a Denver Nuggets who have not lost since picking up Aaron Gordon. I think they're 7-0 since then, or something around that. But anyways, these were my thoughts on the NBA games from today. Let me know what you thought about my takes on the games. Let me know what you think about the whole Thunder tanking thing. What pick do you think we end up getting? I'm hopeful for a 1 in a 5 situation. That's the dream, obviously, but also let me know if you want me to live stream my reaction to the draft lottery. I think that's something I'm going to do, but I want you guys to let me know if that's something you're interested in, just so I'm not doing it because I want to do it, because I want to know you guys are really into it. So I appreciate you guys watching to the end here. If you made it to the end here, say welcome to the tank below in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later. Everyone, say it back.